you could say that your research in some ways, and I say this tongue-in-cheek a little bit, but your research is offering scientific credibility to what the New York Times recently in an op-ed referred to as the multi-billion-dollar spiritual industrial complex.
Yeah.
Did you see this article?
I've seen other ones like it, but yeah, no, definitely. Is this the one about Headspace?
It didn't mention Headspace, no.
Okay, yeah,
Headspace,
no, there's a new one on Headspace, yeah.
This was more criticizing the usage of being in the moment as a sort of as a panacea to all problems.
Right.
And actually, there was a concluding paragraph. I thought I'd read it just to let you respond, because I think this is gets into the heart of what you're doing. The author, Ruth, what's her name? Ruth Whitman says, in reality, despite many grand claims, the scientific evidence in favor of the moments being the key to contentment is surprisingly weak. When the United States Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality conducted an enormous meta-analysis of over 18,000 separate studies on meditation and mindfulness techniques, the results were underwhelming at best, she said. Although some of the studies did show that mindfulness meditation or other similar exercises might bring some small benefits to people in comparison with doing nothing, when they are compared with pretty much any general relaxation technique at all, including exercise, muscle relaxation, listening to spiritual audio tapes, or indeed any control condition that gives equal time and attention to the person, they perform no better and in many cases worse. So I'll give you a few minutes to eviscerate that claim.
Well, I wouldn't say eviscerate, but yes. I mean, so in that study, it was a meta-analysis. And so what a meta-analysis is it lumps together all the papers. And so it's an analysis of journal articles, right? So it doesn't actually look at the data, and it's sort of a very, I won't say blindly lumps things together, but it kind of just lumps them all together and says, okay, is there an effect? And if so, how big is the effect? And so, and the thing is, there's all sorts of methodological ways you can do this. And often what happens is that some papers are given more weight than others for reasons that are perhaps not necessarily legitimate. And also, often they don't look at and consider some of the finer details. So for instance, there have been numerous papers on the effects of meditation for depression. There's been others that are meditation for stress, others for anxiety, for eating disorders, for all these different things. And it seems like for some conditions, meditation may be more effective than others, but they didn't really, they just sort of lumped everything together, I believe, in that. Maybe they broke things down, but I don't remember exactly. But generally speaking, yes, and that, and so I think the thing is, there's several layers to the answer. So, saying that it's no better than, say, exercise or an active control condition, I think the other way to think about it is that it's as good as. Like, we know that exercise is highly effective for regulating mood and for making people happier, less stressed, less depressed, less anxious. It's very, 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 very effective. And so to say that meditation is no better than that, is like, it's glass half full versus glass half empty. I mean, it's sort of saying, but it's as often as good as. And sometimes it's not as good as, but it's still, it's comparable to exercise or physical therapy, or talk therapy or something like this, or medications. So,
and there's actually, in both of those things, whether it's exercise or talk therapy, there could be overlapping dynamics that are similar to what's going on in meditation, right?
Right, exactly. But also, for instance, like I know one study, it was a really good study, and compared meditation to talk therapy to a do-nothing control. And so both meditation and the talk therapy were better than the do-nothing control, but the talk therapy was actually better for the primary outcome, which was, I think that was for pain, right? And so for pain, yes, talk therapy may be better than, but what was interesting was when they looked at follow-up, what they found is that, and actually even in the course of the 8 weeks, the meditation was better for depression. So and even at long-term follow-up, that the meditation seemed to have a bigger impact on long-term depression than on the talk therapy. And so that's the sort of thing. It's like, so there may be the main outcome, but there's all the other stuff. And I think that other stuff is also important to keep in mind because, a lot of those studies are looking again at pathology and not at happiness and well-being. So often when you talk to people, they'll say like things like, yeah, the pain's still there, but it doesn't bother me so much anymore. Like, oh, the pain's still there, but it doesn't rule my life anymore. Right? Or the anxiety, yeah, or like in that, and the questionnaires to get at these things are often a little bit crude, and how they ask things. And often when you talk to people, like subjectively, they will tell you that things are very, very different. So even though they may still be depressed, they may still be anxious, there's something else that's really changed. Like they just, and that's not really being captured, I think, often. So I think that's part of it. There's something else. So maybe, and it's hard to capture that something else. And that may or may not be legitimate because, whatever, but I think there is something there. And then, like I said, then compared to talk therapy and things like this, yes, it may be comparable, but is comparable. That's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. So, so I think, and that's the thing. And so to say, oh, it's not better than, also because most of them are not really powered for being better than. And if it's not quite as good as, it's definitely better than doing nothing. Mm-hmm. So I think the way they worded it was a bit misleading and overstating.
Got it.